5 a.m. I was jolted awake by the eerie echo of golden knuckles rapping against my bedroom door. Sami had insisted I take the guest bedroom, relegating Miss Hatchet-Face to the living room couch. As she stood in front of the full-length mirror, clad only in black lace against her red skin, she murmured, "It's nothing, my room anyways." The sight was both chilling and oddly captivating. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and groggily sat up, shouting at the persistent knocking, "I'm awake. Ain't ready as a boy." Larry's gruff voice called from the other side, "Get your walking shoes on, and let's do this thing." I turned to Miss Hatchet-Face, who was still preening in the mirror. "Have you seen my shoes?" "They're next to your bed," she replied, her voice dripping with a sinister edge. "Thanks," I muttered, grabbing one of my black leather loafers and hurling it at the door. The knocking ceased abruptly. Miss Hatchet-Face attempted a disapproving glare but ended up smiling, an unsettling sight with her sharp features. Fully dressed, I opened the door to the mouth-watering aroma of sizzling bacon and fresh-cooked eggs. The dining room table, usually cluttered with maps, was now laden with plates piled high with breakfast foods. A giant jug of iced orange juice gleamed invitingly. Annie emerged from the kitchen, her flour-stained apron smeared with batter, a grin plastered on her face that didn't quite reach her eyes. Miss Hatchet-Face grabbed my arm, her smile more predatory than friendly. "I hope you two enjoyed the guest bedroom," Annie said through clenched teeth. "I'm sorry if the couch wasn't to your liking, Miss Hatchet-Face." "Oh, it was fine," she replied with a smirk. "Just not a lot of space to move around." She slid her arm around my waist, looking up at me with a wink. Annie's grin grew larger and more plastic, a vein throbbing in her forehead. "Well," she said, "breakfast is ready." "Are you much of a cook, Miss Hatchet-Face?" Annie asked with forced casualness. "I dabble," she replied, glancing at me expectantly. "Yeah, Miss Hatchet-Face is the best cook," I stammered, trying to suppress the memory of her many failed attempts at human cuisine, often involving tentacles and green slime. "Oh, really?" Annie said, her tone icy. "I think I saw you on that show. Isn't that the one where half the judges died of explosive diarrhea?" Miss Hatchet-Face blushed, saying nothing. We all sat down to a tense breakfast, Annie asking me how the food was half a dozen times. I replied diplomatically each time, desperate to avoid a breakfast war. Afterward, Larry insisted we hit the road immediately. "We need to drive out to one of the existing Netherworld portals in Florida," he explained. "If Annie creates another one, they'll sense it and be on us in minutes." "What's the closest portal?" Miss Hatchet-Face asked, her eyes narrowing. "Mei Chinese buffet," Annie replied. "They use the portal to import ingredients." "I love that place's kung pao chicken," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "It's not chicken," Larry muttered. "Well, I love that place's kung pao something," I corrected myself. The sun shone brightly in a cloudless sky as we piled into the car, heading toward Mei Chinese buffet. The hostess, a beautiful woman in a traditional red silk dress adorned with golden lotus blossoms, greeted us with a smile that sent a chill down my spine. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice smooth and unyielding. "I need to speak to the owner," Larry said, his tone clipped. The woman turned to Larry and smiled. "Mr. Crowder," she said, "it's good to see you again." "I wish I could say the same," Larry replied coldly. "Last time I was here, you tried to put me in egg rolls." The hostess shrugged nonchalantly. "Some people like goat," she said. "What do you want with Mrs. Chun?" "We need to borrow your portal," Larry said. "Top secret Netherworld business." "What portal?" she asked, her smile growing tighter. "You really want to play like that?" The hostess shrugged again. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "All our ingredients are ethically sourced from local farms. Are we clear? Can we please hurry this up?" I interjected, my voice tinged with desperation. "There's a lot at stake here. We really don't care what's in your egg rolls. We just want to get to the Netherworld as soon as possible." "And what's in it for me?" the hostess asked, her eyes gleaming with a hint of malice. "If you don't help us, then I'll put you in the egg rolls," Miss Hatchet-Face replied, her voice dripping with menace. The hostess wrinkled her nose and cocked her head, then plastered on a plastic customer service smile. "Right this way," she said, leading us through the restaurant and back through the large double doors to the kitchen. "The portal is in here," she said, pointing to a large walk-in freezer. "You first," said Larry, his eyes never leaving her face. The hostess's smile widened unnaturally. "Of course," she said, pulling the large steel door open and stepping inside. We crammed ourselves into the cooler and the heavy doors slammed shut behind us. The hostess turned around and smiled. "I don't get it," Larry said. "Where's the portal?" "Right here," the hostess said, flicking a switch on the wall. Suddenly, the ground vanished and we were tumbling through darkness. "God damn it!" Larry yelled, picking himself up off the ground. Miss Hatchet-Face was already standing, staring at the sky, a dark bruise of purple without a cloud in sight. "She shut the portal behind us," she said. "There's no getting back that way." "She dumped me in as well," Annie said, brushing off her pants. "If her snack finds out I'm here, he's gonna destroy the world immediately. We need to keep a low profile." "Huh," Larry said. "Which one do you think he'll destroy first? Hell or Earth?" "Did you really just ask that?" Annie snapped. Larry sighed and pulled an object from his pocket, a smooth glass sphere that looked like an oversized Bloody Mary marble. Tiny pinpricks of light shone from within, floating around as if suspended in water. The pattern of light seemed to mean something to Larry because he stuffed it back in his pocket and pointed straight ahead. "It's that way," he said. "Well, what are we waiting for?" I asked. "Let's go." "Not so fast," Larry said. "We need to split up. Are you kidding?" I asked. "Look, Larry, I don't know what things are like in the goat dimension, but here on Earth, we have these things called horror movies, and the #1 lesson in all of them is to never split up." "We don't have a choice," Larry said. "Once we make the sacrifice, we'll have to make a quick getaway. I can lead a serious knock, but someone has to locate a portal and set up a beacon. The location will read on my thingamajig." "Your what?" I asked. "The thing that tells me where to go." "It senses Netherworld magic, which means Annie is the one who needs to locate the portal, and Frank and Teddy will go with her." "Annie and Frank and Teddy?" she asked doubtfully. "Why doesn't Darren come?" "Because I said so," Larry said firmly. "And I'm running this operation." "Fine, but Frank and Teddy, really? I'd be better off alone." "Our mission requires subtlety and subterfuge," Larry replied. "There's nothing subtle about a 7-foot teddy bear." "Frank and Teddy go with you and not with us," Annie sighed. "Wow," she said. "You're the operational expert, and don't you forget it." Larry replied, and so despite many protests, we split up, and Frank, Teddy, and Annie wandered off alone into the darkness of the Netherworld. Walking in the Netherworld felt like walking in the night sky. The only source of light was a ghostly blue luminescence that shone from beneath our feet and did not penetrate far under the heavy curtain of darkness that surrounded us. The atmosphere reminded me of a funeral home, oppressive and suffocating, as we trudged through the abyss. I felt like speaking in anything above a hushed whisper was somehow inappropriate. "Hey, Larry," I whispered after we'd been walking for what felt like an hour. "Yeah?" Larry whispered back. "How much farther to go?" Larry sighed. "What, do you have to pee or something?" he muttered. "We'll get there when we get there." "I know that," I said, "but you must have some idea of how far it is from here." Larry chewed on the end of his cigar nervously. "It's about 16 Netherworld hyperseconds," he replied. "How long is a Netherworld hypersecond?" I asked. Larry shrugged. "No idea," he said. We walked on in silence for a few more minutes, but the nervous tension was unbearable. I spoke up again. "Larry?" Larry spat on the ground. "I bet you're really fun on road trips, huh?" he replied. "What do you want, kid?" "Well," I said, hesitant about the sensitive nature of the question I was about to ask. It's about the sacrifice. Yeah, what about it? Larry grumbled. I was just wondering, I said. If you get sacrificed, won't you die? Larry stopped short, and I almost ran into his back. He turned around, his expression of disbelief almost comical, his cigar hanging loosely from the corner of his mouth. What? He asked. I looked at Miss Hatchet-Face for some reassurance, but she was staring at me with a similar look. I mean, I cleared my throat. If you get sacrificed, you die, right? I mean, that's what a sacrifice is. That's what a sacrifice is, Larry repeated blankly. So let me get this straight. You were planning on killing me the whole time? Well, no. I mean, I don't really, that is your job, right? Larry cocked his head and squinted his eyes, pulling the cigar out of his mouth and using it to gesture as he spoke. You think my job is to get murdered? He said. And you just went along with it without a question? What the hell is wrong with you? Oh, I didn't know you were going to be a talking goat at first. I just thought you were going to be a normal one. So now you're saying I'm not normal? He replied. It's not enough that you want to kill me, but you have to insult me first as well. No, I just mean that. You just meant that if I couldn't talk, it'd be okay to kill me, he interrupted. I've got a little nephew who's a deaf mute. You want to kill him too? I was floundering, but Miss Hatchet-Face came to my rescue. Darren doesn't know anything about it, she said. Everybody around him acted like it was normal, so he just assumed it was. It's not his fault. Yeah, Larry replied. It's totally not his fault. That's the problem with you humans. It's never your fault. You always just go with the flow, doing what everybody else does, even if the end result is terror, death, and famine. Listen, Larry, I'm really sorry, I replied. Yeah, he said, chewing on his cigar. Don't worry about it, kid. It's about what I'd expect. Nobody spoke the rest of the way until we arrived at Herzak's lair. The thingamajig went off in Larry's pocket with a stiff, somewhat robotic British woman's voice. You have arrived at your destination. We're here? I asked. That's what you have arrived at your destination generally means, replied Larry. But I don't see anything, I said. You will, Larry replied. He tapped out a rhythm on the smooth stone surface of the Netherworld, and the sound echoed off into the distance, but nothing happened. There was a tense pause, and then we felt a faint rumbling beneath our feet. At first, I could only feel the rumbling in the soles of my feet, but soon it traveled up my legs, through my torso, and finally ended with the chattering of my teeth. Fissures snaked through the ground beneath us, unearthly blue light radiating outward from them. Soon we were standing on a spider web of glowing cracks. Then, with the sound of cracking stone, an obelisk rose forth from the ground like a crowning grave marker. It rose slowly at first, then more quickly, until the top was out of sight. The sheer size of the thing gave me vertigo, and I fell onto my back as the ground shook violently. I looked around and saw that everyone else had fallen too. Finally, the tremors stopped, and we all pushed ourselves up off the ground. I turned to Larry. So this is where Ngok lives? He doesn't live, said Larry, but this is where he resides. So how do we get in? I asked. There should be an entrance on the map, see Bran? Said Larry. Maps? I didn't bring any maps, I replied. What? Larry said, his voice rising. That was your only job. Nobody told me I was supposed to bring any maps. Please tell me you're joking. Why would I be joking at a time like this? Because if you're not joking, then we're screwed. He's not joking, Miss Hatchet-Face said. I was with him the entire time, and I never heard anyone mention Darren bringing the maps. Said Sam, who had been quiet until now. Do you have something to say? Asked Larry. Well, I've just been thinking, Sam said. That must be a strain for you, Larry retorted. You have no idea, Sam replied. But I think I figured something out. You have? Larry asked, skeptical. Yeah, said Sam. Ngok is Annie's father, right? And Annie said she'd been to my maybe Fae before, so she'd know the hostess and where the Netherworld portal was. She's the princess of the Netherworld. She'd be able to sense it. She couldn't have been ambushed by a secret portal. Larry and Miss Hatchet-Face shot each other a glance. I don't get it, I said. Where are you going with this? I'm just saying, Sam continued, that Annie not giving Darren the maps seems like more than a coincidence. Are you suggesting she's up to something? You saw how thoroughly she planned this, Sam said. She had the maps all marked up and everything. She wouldn't have had the time to do that since we've been here. She was already planning something. That's unbelievable, Miss Hatchet-Face replied. You think I'm off base? Sam asked. No, the part about Annie I believe, Miss Hatchet-Face said. She's devious. I've just never heard you speak more than 2 coherent sentences in a row. Well, devious plans are my specialty, said Sam. I'm upper management. So if she isn't here to help us, Larry said, what's she here for? Just then, the thingamajig went off like a klaxon in Larry's pocket. He pulled it out and frantically tried to shut it off, but to no avail. Suddenly, it stopped. When the final echoes of the alarm had faded, the thingamajig spoke once again. The thingamajig has detected off-the-chart readings of Netherworld energy consistent with the presence of Anjiuk, the World Eater, traveling in your direction at 10% of light speed. Estimated arrival time is 0.01 Netherworld hyperseconds. The thingamajig suggests you use the remaining few moments of your life to say goodbye to your loved ones. Thank you for using Thingamajig Incorporated GPS services. Larry dropped the thingamajig and we watched as it rolled away. I think we're about to find out, he muttered.